we shouldn't be just focusing on the absence of disease. I mean, you can be terribly sick and just not have the symptoms to report. And
I
not
think
feeling the pain from something still doesn't mean you're healthy.
something that I explored for a long time, way before I became a homeopath, is why are creative geniuses, why are they depressed? Why do they have such difficult lives?
I think that health has more to do about being connected to your body and being able to listen and interpret than with a lack of symptoms. Lack of symptoms can be the result, but it's definitely not.
Every now and again, I like to mix things up a bit on this podcast. I have to keep you all on your toes, right? Especially after more than 400 episodes and 4.5 years of weekly podcasts. Phew. So today, I get to sit back and relax with the rest of you because this episode is a recording between two of my favorite homeopaths, Jane Wiet, who you can listen back to in episode 315, where she speaks about dreams, symbols, and archetypes, and also 360, where she speaks about transpersonal trauma. And we also have Viet van Helmont on, who featured on episode 376, where he spoke about addressing the root of trauma. Now, these two incredible homeopaths also happen to be good friends. So during one of my conversations with Jane many months ago, I said to her, I wish I was a fly on the wall when you and Vit are chatting, because the two of you have such a vast knowledge of the human psyche and homeopathy, and I would love to just listen in on the types of things you two talk about. So Jane and Vit happily obliged and pressed the record button during one of their fascinating conversations, and that is what we all get to have a listen in on today. So Jane and Vit, thank you so much for today. I really hope you'll do a part 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and many more for us, because it really has been fascinating having a listen in. Now, if you want to get hold of Jane, you can visit janewiet.com. or you can find Vit at c4-homeopathy.com. Enjoy the episode.
Here we are together sharing our information with the world, and especially with Eugenie. Thank you, Eugenie.
Yeah, thank you.
Your work is so great, and it's getting more each day, right?
Getting more each day. I was going over the podcast list today on Vimeo. It's impressive. This is getting homeopaths together.
It really is. It really is.
And I love the way this is. Male teaching is this is the book, read it, and female teaching is this, and this has much deeper connection.
Yes, yes. Yeah, connection. That's probably one of the themes of our conversation today, right?
Right.
Connection.
Right.
Because we're going to talk about how important it is to connect with one another, aside from being fun, which it really is.
Which it is.
And not to be sitting in our little room by ourselves all the time, but really deeply connecting with one another and enhancing our practices by sharing information.
Yeah, like I say, it's a different type of learning, because whenever I have an issue, a case, or a remedy I don't understand, I'm studying the remedy with one patient in mind. And when you're soundboarding with somebody else, especially with you, because you have different directions than I'm using, you come up with a whole different image. It's like this picture of people touching an elephant and all describing it. And this helps me get the whole picture.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I've said many times the thing that you shared with me about lanthanum carb, following pulsatilla, or when you give pulsatilla and it doesn't completely heal the person, then lanthanum carb would be the remedy. And I trust you completely on that, because I know you're speaking from your own experience. And when I tried it, it worked. It was really great. So lanthanum carb to me, after that conversation, is like, it's like the individuation part of pulsatilla.
And I think, well, Hahnemann didn't know lanthanum as a remedy, but he started prescribing acutes with more plant remedies and constitutionally with the minerals. And Kent noticed that kalium sulfur is the mineral pulsatilla, which in practice I don't see that much that they go from one into the next. But pulsatilla and silica, that's a well-known connection.
Right, right.
And just as much I see pulsatilla and lanthanum carbonicum.
And this whole idea that you just mentioned of the plant remedy and mineral remedy relationship, I think this is something that we really need to look at more. The old homeopaths did that, they what follows what. But
Haha.
the idea that maybe everybody has the need for a plant remedy and a mineral remedy, or maybe even an animal remedy. I mean, to me, the animal remedies are really about pathology, survival, PTSD, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And so they would sit on top of all of that.
Yeah. Well, I have different perspectives as well.
Yes.
But I think it's very interesting that this is a topic for this day and age. And I think we are just scratching the surface with the depth of healing that we can achieve. And Hahnemann started out mainly working with contagious disease, pandemics, etc. And for that, you need the plants. And now we are starting to look at who we are and where we are coming from. So transgenerational trauma is now much more of an issue than 50 years ago. So now we are starting to look at patients and not just this confined element of how are you feeling today. Now it's part of who you were yesterday and who were your parents and where were you living. And we are looking at a much bigger perspective than ever before.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And one of the values of discussing with clients in real time is that we're dealing with now.
Yeah,
Whereas when we look at the old books, I mean, in Hahnemann's day, people didn't even know there was something like as a psyche, you know?
yeah,
It was just not used. Now, previous to that era, previous to the age of reason, people saw things in a symbolic way that was more connected with the psyche, even though they didn't call it psychology. I mean,
right.
because they had rituals and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were,
yeah, yeah.
so they dealt with it in a different way. And then that all got wiped out
Yeah,
by this. And now we're at a point where and we were talking earlier about the need for the feminine, the masculine view, starting with logos at the age of reason, wiped out the feminine symbolic area, and there was no real deep connection with the psyche. So now what's really needed is this union, right? Along
uh-huh.
with all of the other things you said, the connection, because the feminine is about the connection,
The feminism is
connecting.
about a connection and it's about flow and growth as well. So just continuing in this path of logos is it eventually a dead end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we're not at the dead end, that we can still make the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
transformation.
yeah.
But all periods of time that required a huge transformation had this apocalyptic aspect to them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's the cycle from psora to psychosis, and then you end up with syphilinum bursting out in an acute event, and then the cycle starts again. So we are now
Yeah.
moving towards some syphilitical acute event, and then we move on.
We need to use the creativity inherent within the syphilitic in order to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
And
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's also a big part of this transition that we are making because up till this point, the World Health Organization has this definition of health that it's an absence of disease. And I think the only absence of disease is death. There is no such thing that what Alfred Ziegler says, we need disease and small symptoms to keep on our journey. And to quote another name, Virchow said, nature is the cure and reconnecting with nature is the highest cure. And the role of the healer is the high priest of nature. So I think this is the movement we should be following. We shouldn't be just focusing on the absence of disease. I mean, you can be terribly sick and just not have the symptoms to report. And
I
not
think
feeling
I
the pain from something still doesn't mean you're healthy.
I think this is problematic for homeopaths in that they don't fully embrace vitalism. Because what you're talking really is the true vitalistic point of view.
Yeah,
And one of the reasons for that is because Hahnemann never truly embraced it, even though I mean he may personally have truly embraced it.
uh-huh.
However, he was sort of afraid to take that next step or those next steps and to acknowledge where he got that from and his connection to Paracelsus. As we were, I think that's a great loss for homeopathy, and I think it's one that needs to be retrieved.
Oh, definitely, definitely. The more I'm reading up on Paracelsus at the moment, I'm thinking that C4 homeopathy, transgenerational trauma, and a bigger three-dimensional perspective of health and disease was present in Paracelsus theories. And I just
Yes.
think that Hahnemann was aware, but didn't want to, well, fight every battle. So he just made a selection.
Yes, yes. There's a reason for that. I understand that. But where it becomes problematic is if you don't give your sources, which was true in Hahnemann's writing on the vital force, because a lot of what he wrote came directly from Paracelsus. If you don't give that source, if you don't cite your source, it's not only not that ethical, but it also doesn't allow people to go back and retrieve the
Right.
original work.
Yeah.
And so we have to really second guess Hahnemann, like, where did he get this from? I mean, it makes the research quite difficult, but we can do it. We can do it.
We definitely now with modern means we can do it, and I understand why Hahnemann was quiet. I mean, it was just after the period where you're not that proud to be occupied with alchemy,
Right,
so
right,
you shut up about it,
right,
and he
right.
was already kicking so many people with the homeopathic like cures like theories. You don't you
Right.
don't you don't want to annoy him any further. So I think he was just very selective in what he wrote.
Of course, of
But
course. I
but
think
his
he determines
awareness,
it.
if you
Yeah.
read the chronic disease and the organon, he was so aware of this three-dimensional picture. And well, as he didn't name the sources, we now have this idea of vital force. That's what I'm thinking. That the vital force is like this battery that needs to be charged, and if it's empty, it's empty. And I don't think that's a very one-dimensional idea.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's really a shame that we kind of left out Paracelsus. And as you said, there was a reason for leaving it out. But Paracelsus was very, very detailed about the vital force. And he talked about the vital force. He called it the arcana or the arcana.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and the action, he had a name for the actual action and how the vital force worked. And he called that imaginatio.
Yeah.
And imaginatio, he says, it was really important to be developed in both in the physician and changed in the client. And imaginatio was not just, according to Paracelsus, it was not just something ephemeral that you see, like imagination, like you think of fantasy or whatever thing.
Uh-huh.
It had an actual action, not only on the individual, but it was in the healing process. It was working between the physician and the client. In other words, he predated the whole idea of transference and countertransference
Right. Right.
with that.
And
And he said Imaginatio reaches to the stars. I mean, he had this
uh-huh.
very interesting way, but it means that it was not limited, that it affected the whole world. And the other part of Imaginatio, he has steps for the physician on how to develop the Imaginatio.
Uh-huh.
And it starts with the very first step, which really aligns with a lot of spiritual teachings, is ethical behavior. That was the
Uh-huh.
first step in it. Anyway, so all of that is left out, you see.
Well,
Of
purposely. I mean, it's very difficult to have bloodletting and leeches and also have ethical. You can't have both. So this is left out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it is time, as you say, what we need to understand, as you said so beautifully, we need to really explore what homeopathy can actually do.
Yeah.
And it starts with us as homeopaths. So our exploration of the vital force needs to be deeper. We need to go back and find the roots of vitalism and study. I mean, in this case, Paracelsus, who was, I mean, the more I study Paracelsus, the more I understand his influence. He influenced science. Isaac Newton was extremely affected by Paracelsus's writings.
Uh-huh.
And also, he's had the roots of modern psychology. If modern psychology, at least from a Jungian point of view, which is the more vitalist view of psychology. So there was so much. I mean, he was the father of all that, and Jung acknowledged that.
Yeah. And I think he was also the one that layered cause and effect in illness. That he said,
Yes,
well, there is so much you can do with healthy living and eating healthily. Then there's this next level where you also need to treat with herbs and plants, etc. And then there's a higher level which requires a different, more spiritual stimuli to bring the patient into healing. This is
yes,
an entry into psychology.
yes. The imaginario. Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very exciting area to explore and to begin to understand. And there are quite a few scholarly works. Paracelsus himself, you probably realize this, is very difficult to read. I mean, his language was really kind of difficult. I don't know how else to say it. And he made
Yeah.
up words also.
Yeah, no, this is not light reading.
No. I mean, even if you read German, it's not
Yeah.
really, yeah. But there are some very good secondary sources.
No, I'm
Um,
very happy that they put the Paracelsus library online, that you can
yes.
now browse and check for his perspective or what he wrote on. I'm daily browsing this site.
Well, I think this idea of putting things online and digitizing information is really important for this next step. I mean, there's a lot of negative aspects of that too, but I mean, one of the things is that alchemy it has been much more usable now that Isaac Newton's library has been digitized and all of his work and writings on Paracelsus have been revealed, or alchemy in
Yeah,
general. And
yeah,
so now, there's a lot more scholarly work on alchemy.
yeah. No, so the next step is finding the bridges between Hahnemann, Newton, and Paracelsus.
And yeah, and for me and Jung.
And Jung, and no, exactly, and Jung, because I think um, then you can retrace the steps and you can find out, okay, this is where it's going, and
Yeah.
take the next step. And if you just have one author, and I'm not knocking Hahnemann, but if you just have one author and you don't know where the theory is coming from or how it developed, it's very difficult to take the next step.
Very well said. Well said. And it's really important. This is the edge of my work right now, trying to integrate and synthesize this, but from a very as reliable and with as much rigor as possible. And in doing this, one of the things is that I've been using AI a lot. Of course, you have to be careful using AI also.
Yeah.
But it's certainly questions to like Chat GPT or what that's the one I'm using. You can get a lot of sources and you can also train it. That's what I've seen. My inquiries, I've trained them over the weeks and months that I've been doing this, and it knows scholarly references
Uh-huh. Right.
only, secondary, and it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. There's a
Oh,
lot of
it's very
intelligence there.
interesting. Yeah. I mean, this is the good fortune that we have now, is that we can cross-reference libraries. It would take months, decades to go through, and now with just one click, well, and you have to verify everything because
Yeah.
it's not 100% reliable, but it brings so much creativity.
Did you ever have the experience? I found it very interesting. I was working on something comparing Hahnemann's view with Paracelsus's view, and AI made a mistake. And so I said, this is not right. This is what it is. It was very interesting. Immediately corrected it.
Ah,
And then from then on, it integrated that new knowledge into itself.
oh wow.
I
Well,
was
I
really
haven't.
impressed.
Yeah. No, that is impressive. I've come across some errors, and recently I asked ChatGPT who is Wiet van Helmont, and he came up with a very nice sentence: classical homeopath treating trauma with gemstones, etc.,
Yeah, yeah,
etc.
yeah.
And then you see it mixes things up. And I was also running a cannabis coffee shop in the city of Helmond. So luckily I see this mistake, and I can laugh about it, but it's very easily when you're doing scholarly work to pick up something that's wrong.
Yes, yes, yes. But try it sometime. You'll see it's quite interesting. I mean, it's there's no ego there,
Yeah.
so it can correct immediately. It's very interesting.
Uh-huh.
And of course, it adds to the authenticity of the information, especially about
Yeah.
homeopathy.
Yeah, no, this is how I'm currently playing a lot, because you get very strange things if you just ask for very big topics and then say, oh, what's Paracelsus's view? And
Yeah, yeah.
then there are these very nice AI written Facebook pages, etc. But it's not reliable information.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you have to
I
define your search.
You can set it for scholarly.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I always add, scholarly, reliable scholarly references only.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get a lot of references that you can work off of or buy the book or whatever.
Yeah. No, I use within and now I forget the library because I just click favorite, but the online library of Paracelsus books, and then I write only use this site, and then
Ah,
you get the same results.
interesting. Can you send me that link eventually about that site?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not so sure
I'll
I
put the
have
link
it.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to do that now, but that would be great to have. Yeah, see the value of communicating with one another.
Usually after one of our conversations, I have 1 or 2 pages left with notes that make me, oh, think about this, study this, read this. Yeah, or things that make sense. Oh, this is connected to this. Yeah, this is very interesting stuff.
Yes, it really is. It really is. And this is a big topic. It's like we're going back and we're retrieving what we should have had in terms of understanding the vital force and vitalism in general.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is very much needed, because I think at the moment, a lot of doctors and psychologists are not understanding their patients. And if you start to look at the vital force as not a battery, but something like a river that's flowing from generation to generation, and that's a part of a bigger collective, then it makes sense that something that happened 2 or 3 generations ago is still present in the part of the river you are in now.
Right, right. And I think the analogy of a river is good because we get stuck and say, well, it's affected the DNA. But even that subtle, wonderful innovation and understanding is still mechanistic.
For me, it's an unsatisfying answer. It's like wiping it off the table. So it's in the DNA. Leave it alone. You'll never change it.
Yeah, yeah,
Then you're not looking for purpose and meaning anymore.
right. Yeah, and also, the part of if you read Paracelsus, this whole idea of the development of the imaginatio of the practitioner. Eastern medicine has always acknowledged that the need for the development of the physician. And we sort of say, yes, that's true, but there are no guidelines. How do we get there?
Right.
How do we do that? So that's one of the things that I'm writing about is how do we develop ourselves as human beings in general and also as physicians? How do we do that? Because if we're conveying something all the time through our own vital force, then we need to make sure that's in good shape.
Right. And this whole theory of healthy body, healthy mind, yeah, of course. But what is a healthy body and a healthy mind?
What's behind it?
What's
Yeah.
behind it? And now we have quantum physics, and we have the, what's his name, Aharonov-Bohm effect, where you only are looking at the potential to cause change. That, for me, that's the reason that talking to a patient or just thinking about him can already set something in motion.
Absolutely.
It's not just the
Absolutely.
remedy anymore. And we have to
Yes.
be aware of this.
And also, there are so many questions that we have in homeopathy that can be answered by a deep understanding of the vital force and the imaginatio. For instance, why is it that some people can use a remedy, some homeopaths can use a remedy and get really good cures with it? Another person uses
Right.
the same remedy and well indicated, and it doesn't work.
And it doesn't work. Yeah, and it's the same thing that why is it that certain homeopaths have great results with only low potencies, and with others, it's only with very high potencies that they get something done. And I don't think it's the potency, it's the person behind it.
Yeah, there's something riding on that potency, on that
Right.
remedy, right?
Right. This is just a transitional element that will bring energy from one place to the next.
Yes, one of our colleagues always said that many years ago that the homeopathic remedy is a transitional object.
Yeah. And I completely agree. And it's this method of looking at homeopathy, but also at healing and the awareness of this during consultations. It's part of practice. It's not just something you read and you move on.
Yes.
There has to be an awareness of this.
And also in terms of epidemics, for instance, Hahnemann wrote a lot about that, right? And how they actually, I mean, he didn't use these words, but how the group unconscious, what was
Uh-huh.
going on in the world actually affected that. Now, Paracelsus was very specific about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said it was he said the imaginatio of an individual who learns about an epidemic in another area that affects his own imaginatio, which is the way that the vital force is transmitted,
Uh-huh.
and then he gets the epidemic
Right.
disease also.
Also, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, so that, I mean, if you look at each pandemic as a disease that is bringing something to the collective on a positive way, then it's very good to delve into this energy, see what the lesson is, surround yourself with it, learn and move on. Because the further you go into resistance or suppression, the worse it gets.
Yes.
And I think you can just as much get the disease from reading up on it, etc.
Well,
I
we
mean,
know about that.
yeah. So I mean, this is the same as students thinking, oh, I just read on sulfur and I'm convinced I need sulfur. Well, this is resonating with some part of you, and it's wanting to develop that part.
Well, I have a confession to make. I've been practicing homeopathy almost 40 years, and I still do that.
Yeah, no, this is how it works for me just as well. I mean, if I read something and I'm thinking, ah, this resonates somehow, I think I should take the remedy because at that point, whatever it resonates with is being emphasized and let's say in the front of my mind. So now it's ready to be healed. So if you then add the stimuli to it, it transitions. You shouldn't say, oh no, it's just because I read it, now move on, read something else. That's
It's
ignorance.
like a reverse proving, right?
Yeah,
Or it's related to provings in some way.
I think it's related to proving some way, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we were talking a while back about ginkgo biloba, And you had some insights into that, and then I did my own proving of ginkgo biloba, both in the remedy and in the gemo, in the subtle essence of the plant.
Uh-huh.
And it was really a very interesting experience. One of the most physical results that I got was that suddenly I'd go outside and I thought, wow, everything is so beautiful, so colorful. And I just couldn't understand it. I didn't realize it was the ginkgo biloba at first.
Uh-huh.
But then I realized, oh, I knew that it was affecting my brain because it's a remedy that powerfully affects the
Yeah,
functioning
yeah.
of the brain. Then what I read was that as we age, our color perception dims. In other words, in the elderly,
Ah,
it gets grayer and grayer and
great.
grayer. And me being a little bit older,
Past
suddenly
puberty.
my
Yeah.
color perception had come like wow.
Uh-huh.
It was very, very interesting.
I've given it a couple of times for eye issues, more cataract, etc. But the effect of ginkgo, well, at least what I see in cases, there is never an eye. It's always eye within the system.
Of
And
course.
this interaction is where pathology is coming from. And what I see in ginkgo is whatever methods I had to connect with the system are becoming stale. This is getting old. I don't know how to connect. Something is moving on, and I've lost the train to hold on to it. And then with ginkgo, they find another connection. So the brain or organs, they reconnect and you re-find your place in the collective again.
Mm. Yeah, I think you mentioned, if I remember correctly, since it's all about memory,
Uh-huh.
that you said that the person has the spark, reignites the
Right.
spark in the individual.
A spark, and I see a lot of creativity coming up.
Uh-huh.
For instance, now you see that, well, this is the natural flow of things. Everybody is going with smartphones and we know how to deal with it. But let's say the group between 80 and 100, these are very complex machines. And those that have chosen a decade ago, well, not to invest any energy in learning how to deal with a phone, they are now confronted that they are getting separated from society.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then Ginkgo picks something up and they find new entrances in reconnecting with the collective.
Yeah, it's really true. The lack of understanding of technology in the aging is a big problem. And I know that in my clients, I always try to get older clients to work with me on Zoom, not only because I work on Zoom now, but I want them to be able to use that technology. What a
Yeah,
difference it'd be in a home and be able to connect with one's grandchildren on Zoom,
exactly. Yeah.
that kind of thing. So yeah, yeah. But getting back to the ginkgo, that what I saw in my own proving and then verified it with you is what you said about the spark. There was what came out was a connection to the element of fire and water, but
Uh-huh.
especially fire with that spark. And and then I realized it was a remedy for radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
And going back to the phones, problems with electrical things and Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Other
And I
thing I've
was,
given it for.
and I have some people who are very helped a lot with ginkgo biloba, which I used it as the gemo, not so much in the remedy. So,
I've used it in mainly in low potency because that
uh-huh.
gives me the opportunity to repeat it a lot. So C4, C7, C12, and then I give it daily, and then something changes.
That's a little bit like using the gemo, right? It's
It's yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, but Because usually there's another remedy, but for this outside influence, the sensitivity to outside influence, especially this radiation, whatever it is, whether it's Wi-Fi or actual radiation, it's useful to use, as you said, low potencies or the tincture or gemo. The gemo is like a tincture,
and
really.
a lot of people are not aware of the influence because it gradually moved up. We started to get these 2G telephones, 3, etc. And now a lot of patients say, "Oh no, I'm not bothered by it." And then I tell them, "Turn your Wi-Fi off when you go to bed. Turn it on in the morning. See if it changes your sleep." And I think
Ah,
80% of the people say, "Oh, my sleep has improved."
how interesting.
Yeah, so there is definitely an influence,
Yes,
but
yes.
we are just not that aware of it.
Right, right. I don't like to think of it because I, but there are people who are really incapacitated by it, and and ginkgo is a helpful remedy. And then the other theme that I saw, and I don't know if this is true, but it'd be interesting to see if you found this too. I know it's in Anashada's proving is this whole thing of the union of opposites. A person who really wants to find their soulmate. And, there's a poem by Goethe about
Ginkgo,
the
yeah.
ginkgo, right? And his lost love and all of that. So I knew this about the remedy, but there was another dimension that came out in my proving, and that was the bipolar genius, the fact that genius has this bipolar aspect to it. So it's like one side is so developed that the other side can't
You
be in
can catch up.
union with
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is my mind went slow because I was also thinking this desire for a soulmate, and we would have to ask Miguel Yakir, but I see it in different ancient plants as well.
Ah,
Like in the cladonia proving, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think it came up in the cladonia, which was a moss proving Cladonia rangifera, with Misha Norland did.
yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
think that this desire for a soulmate also came up, and I know some of the ferns and other mosses have it as well. So I think this is life is moving on. These ancient plants are gradually disappearing or becoming smaller or yeah, going into extinction. And this is where you lose your soulmate. Life is
Ah,
moving on
right.
and you're left.
So also there's this aspect of the union of opposites within, which is,
Right.
yeah, yeah, which is I think where the strong desire for a soulmate comes from. Not 100% because there are physical reasons for it and reproduction and all that, but this inner need for inner union of the masculine and the feminine, of the logos and the eros, a really important part of human development, and one that we're up for now. That's really important. And it's important, I think, for the survival of the species. In the past, of course, having a soulmate would be important for the survival of the species
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
continue your lineage. Now it's important for the survival of the planet.
For the survival of the planet. And I think it's this union, especially of the opposites. This is where growth potential is. I
Absolutely.
mean, if you ask people that say, "Oh, we are happily married," and you ask them, "Okay, what did the other person bring you?" It's always this growth potential. Men usually say, "Oh, I've become so much more confident and I've grown and etc." And it works both ways. So this union of the opposites is, let's say, it's like the starting gun at a race. This is where it takes off.
Mm. In ginkgo, we have this ancient, as you said, it's an ancient plant. It's one
Right.
of the most ancient trees. And one of the ways that I've used it after understanding that and doing my own proving was for people who are having really difficulty accepting the apocalyptic nature of our time, and particularly the political upheaval and all that. I mean, they're really made sick by it.
Yeah.
But giving ginkgo, what it does is because it's so ancient, it gives the bigger perspective, and they're able to see a much larger view,
Right.
and they're no longer made sick by it. They're still active in it and they don't like it and all of that, but they're not made sick by it. Their
Yeah.
perspective changes. So it actually connects them with the lengthy memory of human consciousness.
Yeah. No, and that reminds me of, I've seen a couple of cases that go from ginkgo to ignatia, or they were ignatia in the past, needed ignatia in the past, and then they go to ginkgo, which is also this polarity of the opposite.
Yes, yes, yes. Not being able to accept
Right.
that they're all messed up. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what we started with, because this is a plant remedy, I don't think I ever ended treatment with ginkgo. There's always a mineral or metal that comes after it, or at least some
Yeah.
other remedy.
That makes sense to me. That
Yeah,
makes sense to me because a lot of it is circumstantial.
exactly.
And it's a phase of development. So from a Jungian perspective, is that if you're having difficulty with the union of opposites, you give ginkgo, and the person internally creates, the conjunctio, the
Uh-huh.
opposites come together, and you are more individuated. Then that's no longer needed, but something else is needed, probably.
Something else is needed. I wanted to go through some of the cases I gave ginkgo and see what I gave afterwards. And I was lacking the time, but I found, I think, 4 or 5 cases where I gave sulfur afterwards.
Ah, that's perfect. Yes,
That's perfect,
yes,
because that's the alchemistic, exclude everything that is not belonging to you and move on.
yes.
So this for me makes sense. Like Lantanum and Pulsatilla, that I think
Yeah, yeah.
ginkgo and sulfur are also connected.
Very interesting. Now, sulfur has always been a remedy that I've had a lot of trouble wrapping my mind around. It's so vast.
It's enormous. It's enormous, and it's something I keep learning. That Kent was brilliant when saying, "Oh, when well chosen remedies fail to act, think of sulfur." In a lot of cases, it works,
Huh.
and I think it's the alchemistic principle that's behind it.
Ah, yeah, yeah, with the mercury
Yeah,
and salt and sulfur.
right.
Yes, yes, yes.
To make it pure and to extract anything that doesn't belong to you and your path. This is for me what sulfur is doing.
And of course, it's the ultimate psoric remedy, right?
Right. So this is from where you start to build up again. This is the foundation and then move on again.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. I think I get stuck in the old, the ragged philosopher and,
Yeah,
all of this. It doesn't seem to fit everyday practice.
I see the type, but it's most definitely not exclusive.
Right. I've seen the type too, and give sulfur and it doesn't work.
Right.
Probably because there's something else that needs to be addressed, and maybe eventually the sulfur. That's the problem with some of these remedy pictures, is that, yeah, if you look at the types, you can see them clearly, but is that what's indicated? That's why
No, exactly. I
pathology is
mean,
so important.
if
Yeah.
you look at the chaotic, uncombed hair philosopher type, if he's sulfur for the rest of his life, it doesn't make sense to me. He can be a very healthy sulfur, but need another remedy. I mean, the pathology is not being a philosopher type.
Exactly.
And I think we get pinned down way too much on these constitutional aspects. And I think it's very claustrophobic to think you have one constitutional remedy, and then whatever happens, you always go back to that one. It's like
Uh,
you're constantly trying to enter the same dead end street. You should
right.
you should have a lot of constitutional remedies.
Yeah. Yeah. I know people always ask, or often ask me, right? Oh, is this my constitutional remedy? And I don't have a I try to have something of a pat answer to that, but well, that That's a way of, if you technically you could say so, but constitutional really means something else. And
Yeah,
it's the structure of your body and all of that.
yeah. Well, it's the constitutional remedy for today. That's
That's a good,
yeah.
yeah.
No, no, I'm thinking of this Einstein quote that the idiot is constantly doing the same thing and wishing for something else to happen. You can't be the constitutional remedy forever. That's definitely not healthy.
Oh,
There
yeah.
has to be some dynamic. And I think that what you often see is that people go through the periodic table
As a development, right?
as a development.
Yeah, and I think this is more applicable when you're talking about people really evolving, not just curing one's disease or something like that, right?
Yeah,
If you look at if you redefine what is health, then then the scope and the number of what homeopathy can do and the number of remedies that are needed probably increase.
yeah, probably. And I think that health has more to do about being connected to your body and being able to listen and interpret
Mm.
than with a lack of symptoms. Lack of symptoms can be the result, but it's definitely not the end product.
This is my experience that a person can get quite well on this level of, healing physical diseases very
Yeah,
often. But the process of individuation or the process of really moving into great health takes a lot longer.
it takes a lot longer. And great health doesn't mean living to be 100 pain free. That's not great health for me.
Yeah, yeah. So
I think,
how would you define great
well,
health?
I think it's more being able to pick up what comes in your natural flow and learning from it. Because I think the more you are in let's say the flow of this river that has started already generations ago, the more you're in the flow, the less pathology the body has to develop. The further you are away from it, the more symptoms you get.
Yes. And this idea of the flow that you're in, there are a lot of references, even in Hahnemann, to the intelligence that's within one's individual vital
Uh-huh.
force.
Right.
And when you act out against that, then you get symptoms or you get stalled and you can't do something. This whole thing, a lot of people have the symptom procrastination, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, procrastination is, from this point of view anyway, is that they're trying to do something that's not within the flow of the vital force or the vital force is blocked. But very often it's that they're not in tune with the essential intelligence of their own vital force.
Right.
It's
No.
almost like destiny, or I don't know, it's not really that, but there's this innate intelligence that
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
part of the vital force, and that we have going along with it is the trick, right? The
Going
trick
along with
with
it is
it.
the trick. And I think that we put so much emphasis on logic and rational thinking that there are a lot of patients where I tell, oh, it's too bad that you have such a high IQ because with 20 points less you would have been better by now, because you would have gotten stuck earlier and you would have needed to include other parts in your life just as well.
Yes. And I had mentioned genius earlier. And, in a person who's a genius, it's really even more problematic. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, it's very, very hard to integrate the whole and to live in society and to create certain adaptations that are in line with their feelings or their destiny or whatever you want to call it and the world around them. I mean, this is the problem that Hahnemann had, and it's also the problem that Paracelsus had. Paracelsus and Hahnemann have very similar personalities.
uh-huh, yeah.
They were both bombastic and hard, caused a lot of trouble everywhere they
Litigious, yeah,
went.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I think that part of that was genius, and the shadow or the unfulfilled side of genius is very huge and very difficult to integrate.
Yeah. No, and I think that we have this rubric cannot support injustice. And I think this sense of injustice is what keeps a wound open for a long time. And I think they were both suffering from this sensation. So you get life becomes narrowed down in what it's about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They were people who made huge contributions. They were what Jung called light bringers, right? As was
Yeah.
Jung himself. And that's a difficult journey in this lifetime to be like that. And I think, what came out in the Ginkgo proving it was could be of some help to people who are trying to integrate genius.
Yeah, I haven't given it, but now, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it makes a
yeah.
lot of sense.
Right, because the polarization within the psyche of the individual is so strong. One side, it's lopsided, right? The
Yeah.
whatever, And you see that. I mean, I always had a question that was something that I explored for a long time, way before I became a homeopath, is why are creative geniuses, why are they depressed? Why do they have such difficult lives,
Uh-huh.
especially painters or whatever? And I'm now seeing that this is why the genius is so hard to integrate into the rest of their lives.
It's so hard to integrate, and we only stimulate the genius. We don't
Of
stimulate the
course,
other
we
part.
keep getting kudos for the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
genius.
yeah.
Who cares about the other part? There's nothing from the outside
Yeah,
that it is supporting it, but it's absolutely necessary, and the person continues to suffer because of it.
exactly. No, and I think that's where you see opposites attract. That you often see this is black and white thinking, but you often see this genius married to somebody who's heard, oh, you're beautiful all his her or her life, which is the opposite. And
Yeah.
then they develop physics and emotions, and they have developed genius, and the marriage is where they meet. And what, like I said, this is the starting gun of further development.
Well, if the what you also see, and because I was a painter for many years before I studied homeopathy, I met a lot of painters and read about them and all that. And what you often see is a painter, especially a male painter in those days, with this sort of subservient uh, uh, wife or partner who takes care of everything for them.
Yeah. Well,
And
Hahnemann married a painter.
well, I'm sure yours isn't that way.
No, but I think she balanced the opposites for him. I
Oh,
think that
oh, oh, I thought you were talking about yourself.
no,
Who
no,
were you
no.
talking?
Hahnemann and Melanie, she
Oh,
was a
Heinemann,
painter.
Melanie was a Oh, okay. Yes,
I think
yes,
this is what balanced for him the opposites.
yes.
Otherwise,
But
the
yeah,
theories would have been completely different.
yeah. And Melanie, I don't know that much about her. I just read a few books, but I don't think she was the subservient one. I don't think that
No,
was
no,
true
no,
at all.
definitely not. No.
Yeah. Didn't she take over his practice after he died?
Yeah,
Yeah. So she was a homeopath also.
he was also a homeopath.
Years ago when I was teaching, when I had my school, a student came to me to study homeopathy on the recommendation of her neurologist because she had had head injuries. And the neurologist said that he felt that the study of homeopathy would help her to balance the two sides of her brain.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's a
So,
smart one.
kind of interesting, right? So,
Yeah,
as homeopaths, we work a lot with logical, we know, we read our materia medica, we repertorize and all of that, but we also have the intuitive aspect.
exactly. I think that's why well, I think it's brilliant to refer somebody to do the schooling and not just visit the homeopath. But I think homeopathy as it's a way of life. It's a perspective of life. It's much more philosophical than just, oh, headache, page 56, give this remedy. We are
Well, it
so
can
much
be
more,
that.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can do that, but I think, and that's where I think Paracelsus's brilliance is also that we are now rediscovering C4, C5 homeopathy, but it was already Paracelsus who wrote about this layeredness of disease and who mentioned the spiritual and the religious aspects and the collective. So this perspective we learn as we study homeopathy.
Yes. And especially if we're open to be constantly learning.
Yeah.
And if we follow um, the guidance of what Paracelsus says in terms of development, his first stage, as I said, was this ethical development. And the second stage was the ability for contemplation.
Uh-huh.
And particularly, as you know, he was really big of contemplation on nature.
Yeah.
But he uses the word contemplation in developing that ability. So it's not something that you just sort of study the plant and study, what the botany of it or something. It's actually a contemplation on it, which is a little bit like the proving we were talking before, about
Exactly.
that. And I think that if we're continually developing our ability for this kind of contemplation,
Uh-huh.
it's beautiful. And of course, human beings are part of nature. So we're developing that ability also.
We are the, I think it's contemplation is one word, but the other word is resonating with nature again. Like if an animal has a stomach ache, he knows what to eat. And I think that's this type of contemplation. You resonate with nature and you know your remedy. And you know why the body has given you this signal. And then the answer always comes.
Yes.
And I think it was also Paracelsus who then said, well, the remedy we need most is usually the plant that we surround ourselves with. This is how it happens. If you know the question, you have the answer.
Yeah, the
What
question is the big thing, right?
the
What do
question
you
is the big
ask?
thing.
Yeah.
What is the saying? When the student is ready, the teacher will come.
Yeah.
So it's more about this readiness, and this is where homeopathy is.
So this is a fun conversation as always.
Uh-huh.
And anything else you want to say before we sign off and say goodbye to Eugenie?
Well, I think maybe we discussed it already, but I want to emphasize it a little bit.
Okay.
That with AI, we are also emphasizing the intellectual part of homeopathy. And then to me, the feeling is, oh, if you know the repertory by heart, you would be the greatest homeopath. And I think that's knowing how to build a guitar doesn't make you a great player.
Absolutely.
And I think we
Absolutely.
should emphasize the other parts as well.
I think so. I think also that's true also, even though it's not AI, we've been for many years using repertory programs.
Right.
And if you use them correctly, they're only a guideline. They give you a place to bounce off of and
Uh-huh.
decide, or say, I don't want any of it.
Yeah. No, but
This is not what's going on.
in the past, I've seen so many cases where I thought, oh, the patient needs this remedy from an intuitive level. You know, materia medica, intuition says this is the remedy, but then repertorization doesn't back up the thought. And then you start to self doubt, you give the wrong remedy. And I think that they should be balanced.
Absolutely.
And our instrument for repertorization is becoming more and more polished. And it really is. We have great software, great repertories. We are now integrating AI to browse through bookcases of materia medica. But intuition is left out and personal resonance with the
Yeah.
patient, etc. And I think we need to find a way to integrate it more.
And this is the balance of opposites, or the union of opposites, because the more information that you have, the more actually the intuition or the imaginatio can work on it and send it to other parts of the brain. And then what scientists have found is that when you're actually doing this, getting back to that brain injured,
Uh-huh,
the
yeah, yeah.
whole brain lights up.
The whole brain lights up.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we were discussing with our Indian homeopath Chetna Shukla, and she said, well, Hahnemann was already aware of this, because if you look at this connective process, it's very dynamic. There is materia medica knowledge, there is the knowledge of the patients, the disease, etc., etc. It's very dynamic. So it's like a pendulum moving in all kinds of directions. And then Hahnemann wrote in the organon that the method of healing should be with unbound sway. So it shouldn't move in just one direction and stay there. And I
Yeah.
think this is brilliance of Hahnemann. That there is a dynamic process, and it should all point to the same treatment and the same remedy.
I agree with you. And for me, I think my primary way of functioning is intuitive. I'm an intuitive type anyway. So,
Uh-huh.
but so therefore, I always use, a lot of input, a lot of repertorization and everything to balance that.
Uh-huh.
I'll override it. I mean, these days I override it more than I used to.
No, but as long as there is a balance, I think that's where success is.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed this conversation
I
as
really enjoyed it
always.
too. Really got my mind moving again. So I want to
So
go back to my Paracelsus sites, which I think we should put it.
yes, and
We'll
you'll
put
send
it
me that
somewhere
link.
below the podcast.
Okay, good. Okay, so Eugenie, thanks for this
Thank you for
opportunity.
having us.
Yes,
Bye.
and we'll sign off now. Bye bye.
Bye.